All right, good morning, everybody. I think we are on and live. Hopefully, everybody can hear. And Hunter, we're gonna move your camera here so you can be seen. I think you're actually good.
Am I good?
You look good. All right, we're just testing this out. We're doing a little bit of a different format today, ladies and gentlemen, where we are going through and trying to set it up so that the screen is being shared so that you can see without looking at a projector, see the actual content of the slides a little bit more clearly. We will also be doing, I'll be sending out these slides, and then I sent out a coming soon link as well this morning. Again, it's comingsoon.villagetn.com. And if you want to enter and input any coming soons, I'll send that list out after lunchtime today. So, start off with gratitudes. Hunter, you have anything you're grateful for today?
Just grateful to be here, out of the house a little bit, and still good health for my family and my mom in particular, who I'm concerned about. So, yeah, that's about it.
I'm just showing you what we got here. And again, trying this new setup, but you can see, as you can see, Hunter and I are, we got a solid 6 feet, probably more like 8 feet between us. So we're trying to follow the rules here. But today I am grateful for, I guess I'm grateful for the rain. Makes weed pulling, and weed pulling is simple satisfaction. So I got a lot of weeds in my yard, and at some point I'm gonna spend 30 minutes with the soft, wet ground and pull a bunch of weeds. So how about that? All right, news. Hunter, what you got?
Okay, so start off with a little humor, hopefully. Dating myself here, the Scooby-Doo, grew up with that being, and then have the big reveal at the end. And so we want to see who's really behind COVID-19. Zach? That's right. Been on more Zoom calls in the last week than, there's exponential growth.
There is exponential growth. There was a little bit of, I think I saw in the New York Times this morning, there was actually a data privacy question, but hopefully most of what we're doing is not data privacy. I was wondering if that data privacy came after that poor young woman went to the bathroom and forgot to turn off her Zoom call, so ouch.
So I thought, go to the next slide, Zach. Hugh Montgomery, he's a scientist. He's talking about the difference between the flu and coronavirus, because a lot of the symptoms are the same, and particularly if you're healthy and younger, you may not feel much of a difference between coronavirus and the normal flu. So what's the big deal? Why do we need to do all this social isolation? And I thought he summed it up pretty well. If you go to the next slide, if you get the normal flu, you're going to infect typically 1.3 to 1.4 people. And by the time that's kind of layered on and done 10 times, so they pass it on, then you're responsible for about 14 cases of the flu.
So let me get that clear. So that's, you are with...
So I get the flu.
Out of 10 people, like 100%, out of 10 people, you infect 1.3 of those.
No.
Or you infect 1.3?
I'll infect 1.3 people, and then they'll go on, and because they've gotten it from me, they'll infect other people. And you layer that 10 times, then I'm responsible for about 14 cases of the flu from my one case. And that's because, on average, I'll infect 1.3 additional people. That's a math, take 1.3 to the power of 10. That's how you
1.3 times 1.3 times 1.3, 10 times, got it.
So if you take the coronavirus, you pass it, it's more contagious. I'll pass it to, if I get it, I'll pass it typically to about 3 people.
It doesn't sound like that much difference though.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a huge difference, but when you do the exponential math and layer it 10 times, the coronavirus, and if I infect 3 people, I'm responsible for 57,000 cases. So that's what we're talking about, and that's why this social isolation and social distancing is so important.
So I saw that, and of course, the skeptic and the math nerd in me didn't believe it. So I did the calculation. I did 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and did that 10 times, and sure enough, you get that number.
It's the, you've probably seen the example of if you double a penny every day, when will you become a millionaire? Do you know the answer to that?
It's like 28 days,
yeah,
right?
28 days you'll be a million, just off of 1 penny, double it the next day, double that the next day. And so, it's the power of exponential growth, and so that's kind of what we're battling here. We've got, we're trying to get our healthcare system up. We're trying to keep our cases down. This is flattening the curve, and while we've kind of currently got the office the way we've got it, it is, I know for a lot of us, besides the economic and business impact, not getting to do as much of what we love to do, it can be stressful being at home, and but it is really important, I think, if we can just do this for the next week, 2, whatever kind of our health officials are encouraging us to do, and do it well, I think we can get on top of this. And it is worth remembering, someone sent me a text saying, Anne Frank, in World War II, they were in a 450 square foot room with 7 people, kind of an annex to an attic for 2 years, and no Netflix, no Wi-Fi,
Wow.
So we can do weeks, hopefully not that long, but who knows. We are starting to see some data come through. The next slide, Zach.
You'll see it. I'm just going to move. We're testing this out here. I'm going to move us over so that when I look to the left, it looks like I'm looking at you and not off the screen. How about that?
All right. So this is starting to show some flattening of the curve a little bit. We're the left side, you can't really see it that well. That's March 26th. And then just 4 days later, the same stats showing the fatality curve in some major cities and markets. And you can just see on that right side, if you compare it to the left, you can see the curve is starting to flatten a little bit. So that's good news. There's really not any consensus out there on when we're going to be over the hump on this. A lot of people, and kind of the best guess, I think, is late April. We may start to see an inflection point. So another positive trend is the number of people being admitted into New York City emergency rooms with flu-like or pneumonia symptoms. And so we're seeing just over the last few days that's starting to drop. So we may be seeing the benefits of this social distancing and the shutdowns in recent weeks. So that's some good news. As the coronavirus has ripped through kind of economies in throughout the world, in particular in the U.S., there really hasn't been any area that's been unscathed. This slide is showing the S&P 500 and some other world markets being down, mostly around 25% or so. If you go to the next slide, you can see where commodity prices have gone down. Oil, the only thing that is up is orange juice futures, probably due to the vitamin C boost that people are expecting. The oil was really hit with a double whammy. It had a price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia at the same time as an economic slowdown, which also tends to depress oil prices. But there really hasn't been any safe places to have your money during a time like this. If
you want to learn more about orange juice futures, you have to watch what is it, Trading Spaces?
Yeah. So we got our first jobless claims last week, and this is pretty fascinating. You can see on the far right 3.2 or 3.3 million, and that just eviscerated the previous record, which came in 1982. It was about 630 or 695,000 claims that week. So this sudden spike that we're seeing here probably, will not persist for long, but it does imply that the unemployment rate with this recession is going to be more front-loaded than previous recessions. If you go to the next slide, you can see this same data on a shorter time period, and that you can see the focus on the left side in the last recession, 2008. While we have about 10,000 or 10 times the number of jobless claims during that period, it just happened over a much longer.
So not everybody do it on the same day.
Whereas this one was just, completely happened much more quickly. The onset of just due to the shutdowns. Totally makes rational sense, but it is. It's worth noting. This is a different deal that we haven't seen yet, and so how we come out of this is in a lot of cases unknown, and that's why the markets are so concerned about it. This is also an important graph, I thought, because it shows the stress that businesses are under, and this is the Fed puts this out, and it's an index of financial stress which helps measure the capacity of companies to get funding, and so it's risen to its highest level. That really in late 2008 peaked the last time, and so we're seeing similar peaks over the last week. So I apologize for all these graphs. This is, in the graphs on a funny note, this is the graph of the amount of time I spent looking at graphs this year. And so you can see it's exponential. And then finally,
Man of my heart.
yeah, you like that. Finally, we talked last week about some changes we were going to make here locally, just with what's been going on, and making sure that Village is well positioned to not only survive but come out of this downturn with some strength. And it has not been, our industry hasn't been unaffected by this. You might have seen Compass laid off 15% of their entire workforce last week. Even locally owned firms here have made significant headcount reductions, and we announced last week some that we were going to make to our exec team, the broker team, and our staff. And so some good news that has come out of that. We haven't had to reduce any positions, and we don't plan on doing that. And since we talked last week, a group of anonymous folks who care for our staff here at Village, led by one agent in particular, got together, and they are covering the amount of that the staff would have lost during the 60-day reduction. And so our staff will be able to work normal hours, will be able to be paid normal hours over this 60-day period, and besides just that incredible generosity that was shown, it's really a testament to our staff, I think, how everyone feels about the job that they do, the work that they do, how important it is, and kind of their ability to help our agents keep going. So that was just a really awesome thing to come.
I'm changing my gratitudes. Forget the weeds. I'm
Yeah.
super grateful for that. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's really
Those are Village agents.
yeah, stepping up, and really one of the things that makes Village a special place to be. And we still have folks making some big sacrifices, our broker team and exec team, and you guys as well. I mean, your income and your business is going to be affected by that. And so if you missed last week, we are effectively taking commission splits to 85% until you cap, doing that through the balance of this calendar year. And we're also reducing the admin tech fee 50% over the next 3 months. So we're trying to do everything we can to keep your business going, and so that's really all I have. Ended on some good news there.
That's incredible. Good work. All right, so we've got some education coming up. We've been trying to figure out how to most effectively do this. So hopefully this format is working and you can see the slides better. We're going to do some live stream education today after this. Today, right now it's about 10 minutes till 10, so in about 40 minutes we're going to start a real estate review class. I sent out an email yesterday with a PDF that gives you, again, a lot of graphs, a lot of data. But as with any, you hear me say this a lot, but the whole point of data is to be able to tell a story, right? And so we want to equip you to be able to tell a story of what's happening. And it's a really great touch point to your past clients, to your network. It's a way to spend about 5 minutes doing just a neighborhood market update. So I'm going to go through an online version of how to set that up. It'll be a separate, I think we're going to do a separate link from this. I'll double check that, but we'll send that out again just right before the class. So just stay tuned to your email and your text message inbox, and we will have that ready. Thursday at 11 a.m. This is a great time to work in your database if you're home and you're doing a lot of different things around the house. Crank out your database. Not only getting in touch, but making sure they're updated. It's boring stuff, I know, but it's if you got downtime and you're not out and about, then it's a great way to do it. So we're going to do another Boomtown intro for anybody not familiar with Boomtown on Thursday at 11 a.m. It'll be live streamed as well. And then Charles is going to do on Thursday at 2 p.m. a video about videos. So if you're interested in learning more about how to make videos, different tools, different equipment you may need or not need, things like that too. So tune into those. We're going to have 2 or 3 more events next week as well. So we're changing up the calendar just a little bit, trying to keep what we've been doing, but also add more content just to give you as much help and resources as you can, as you would need. So the market. All right. So if you remember last week, this orange line that you see was showing the showings that really dropped from starting on March 11th. They started going down, and they kept going down, down, down. Well, we had 3 really good solid days the last 3 days. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or I guess Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Beautiful weather. Showings across Tennessee. This is Tennessee-wide. Took a spike. So they are back on the upswing. So I know a lot of you all are out there showing property, and a lot of you all had some responsibilities to help participate in this uptick. So that's great news. I looked at it the last 2 days, and I told Hunter, I said, it's starting to go up. I hope it doesn't take another dip on Tuesday. And so I looked at it this morning, they'd updated it, and it went up again yesterday. So really exciting stuff there. You can see that right there where that arrow is. And then looking at the hot sheet activity. So the new listings, so this is the last 4 weeks, right? So kind of before things started happening, and then as things were happening, we saw new listings. When I say things happening, kind of people really taking this seriously. Again, that kind of week of March 11th was when things took a little bit of a dip, and then the following week was when the order went into effect, that week of March 18th. So if you look at the back to actives, that second line, those are properties that in theory were under contract and then went back and changed status back to active, right? So last week it was at 132, so there was a pretty big spike. But this most recent week, I say last week, the week of 3/18, the most recent 7 days, they're only 90. So it's back to where it was in the previous 2 weeks. So that's pretty normal to have that. Obviously things will fall through for a variety of reasons, inspections, financing, whatever. But that stat is back to normal. The number of contracts, under contract showing, so that's probably new contracts, is down just a little bit, as are under contract not showing. The number of price changes, though, is lower, and it went, again, down at the very bottom. If you look at the median price change, 2 weeks ago, it was $9,000, so almost double what it was the previous couple of weeks. Last week, it was back down to equilibrium at $5,000. So I think those are all really good stats. Obviously, things can be a little bit slower, but again, as we said last week, there's a lot more that is happening than there is that's not happening, right? So a lot of agents are taking extra precautions. You bring in hand sanitizer with you wherever you go, and you're wiping things down, and you're doing all kinds of good stuff to make sure your clients feel good and feel safe.
And I think one thing, just to reiterate too, all recessions are different. You know, '08 was a real estate-led recession. Heading into that, people had very little equity in their homes. They were borrowed very high. Part of that was the mortgage industry had lent money to a lot of borrowers that either didn't have stable jobs or any job. And so you had a lot going on in the real estate market that really led to the downturn overall. This is very different. We're at record highs in terms of people's equity in their home. Borrowing standards are still very high and have been, and so we shouldn't see the same default rate and foreclosure rate that will really have an impact on the market if we're able to come out of this like most people think we are.
So one question I've received about that record equity status, that is true, there is a lot of record equity in here, but some people have said, well, hold on, if somebody just bought this year, then maybe that's not record equity. But I think one of the things that you have to pay attention to is from a lending standpoint, and Connie's actually here, she's going to come up in a minute and give you some updates on the mortgage market. But on a broad scale, generally speaking, down payments are a lot higher nowadays than they were 8 or 10 years ago, you know, in the pre-real estate recession. So just that in and of itself, even if the market hasn't appreciated, if you just bought your house, on average, down payments are quite a bit higher, and so that just lends itself to having higher equity.
And surely if you did just buy, you know, with a 3% down or 5% down loan, you may not have a ton of equity. But that's a very small part of the market.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at the overall health of the market, which is really, I think, what you should look at in order to think through what impact this is going to have on real estate prices, we do have record equity, as well as in '08 we had a new supply coming onto the market, and really that supply has been pretty constrained this time through. And so you'll see some pockets of areas that get hit harder than others, but I think overall we shouldn't see the same level of disruption as last time.
Even right now, supply down just a little bit, 333 down from you know, the mid 380s, 360s the last couple of weeks. A lot of people have said, hey, is it still a good time to put the house on the market, or should I wait? You're hearing various things. Sometimes people will, you know, owner-occupied sellers, I've heard some of those say, yeah, we'd rather wait a little bit, or maybe we can do a Matterport tour, have virtual showings, but not have, you know, a bunch of strangers in our house. We don't know how they you know, handle things. I've had some listing agents say, I want to be present for every showing, and I just want to, you know, bring the tools and bring the cleaners and make sure that that I'm there and taking people around the home, so that you know, 6 feet away, but so that I can keep an eye on behalf of my seller, if you've got extra time to do that. But we have a lot of people that say, you know what, this is the spring market. If you were out and about this weekend, it was beautiful, beautiful weather, and the weather has a lot to do with home buying, right? And so do schools. You know, obviously there's online school right now, but the summertime is coming, and people still have families that are changing, and kids are getting older, and assuming they still have a job. And again, Connie will talk more about the mortgage market here in a minute, but it's not a bad time. I would argue that it's probably a pretty good time to put it on the market. Spring, some people are saying they don't want to put it on the market, so your competition is less, and those are all good facts. So I did not talk about these over the last couple of weeks because obviously we were out of sales meetings, but these stats are on the market. These are from February. We'll have more of these coming out in about a week and a half for March. But Davidson County, this was February, so this is before really all of this took place. Month February 2020 over February 2019, the average price was up 17%, over $400,000 for Davidson County. Williamson County was up 8% with an average sold price of $630,000. The sales in Davidson County, if you look at the very bottom, the total properties for sale, that's new listings, were down 23%. Now February, sometimes that can be weather dependent. People, if it's kind of nasty outside, they don't want to put their house on the market. But the number of closings were up by 11%. And then in Williamson County, the number of closings were up almost 2%, and the total properties for sale were down about 13%. So, Connie, you want to come up and give us a little update? I've got the rates up here that Grace sent out yesterday to me. I know they took a wild ride over the last couple of days, but here, you want some hand sanitizer so you don't touch any of germs? Keeping it real here, people. You can just stand.
Okay.
You don't want to touch that chair.
Okay. All right, so Zach had asked me to come in and talk about the mortgage forbearance that's in place now. It's basically relief for those who have been impacted by the virus. And it's anywhere from 3 up to 12 months worth of either reduced payments or suspending those mortgage payments for borrowers, and without any penalties being accrued on missed payments and no delinquent credit reporting. You need to contact the lender that's servicing your mortgage. It can take like a long time to get through. I've heard people saying it's taking like 2.5 hours sometimes just waiting to actually talk to the somebody in that department. But a lot of the servicers actually have like online applications now that they've put in place for this, just for the forbearance. But one thing to be, I really want to make sure that people know, it is not a mortgage payment forgiveness. It's actually just delaying those payments. So say you're getting, you're approved to do like a 3-month forbearance. On month 4, you actually have to pay 4 months at that one time. So
like a balloon payment? Is that
sort of? It's like what they're doing is
yeah.
they're basically saying, okay, you've been approved to delay your payments. You're having this hardship because of the coronavirus, so you don't have to, make the payment for the next 3 months. So maybe April, May, June, you're not having to make those payments, but come July, you may have to make 4 payments. So you're making it up at that time. So it's just delaying the payments. They do have some programs you can apply for at the end of that to maybe take those 3 months of payments and stretch it out over a year, or possibly modifying the loan and putting it at the back of the loan, so just increasing the balance. So there are some things that are in place, but this is kind of all happening all at once, and it could change too as time goes on. So
So is that 4 months? Is that bank specific, or is that all Fannie Mae, or?
Well, it's basically it's going to depend on the investor.
Okay.
So whoever your lender is, just reach out to them. I just want to make sure people know it's not that you're not necessarily forgiving those mortgage payments. They're not just they don't just go away. They
Right.
go somewhere. And again, there may be some updates and changes that are going to take place. But right now, whenever you're talking to your servicer, just make sure that you're asking those questions. And again, you may have a delay of payments for 3 months or even up to a year. But it could be where you're having to either pay them back over time or do a modification to move it to the back of the loan. Very worst case, they do ask for once you start repaying that you actually have to repay those at one time. So just keep that in mind.
That's interesting. So and tomorrow is a kind of an important day, right? It's the first of the month, which is when rent and mortgage payments are due.
Exactly.
So I think that'll be an interesting data point to see in a few weeks, to see, I guess, what the delinquencies look like and
Sure.
how many. I assume there's a lot of people calling their services right now.
Absolutely,
If they've
yeah.
lost a job or worried about losing a job.
Yeah, they're like I say, the lines are really clogged right now trying to get through to mortgage servicers, and the wait times can be a few hours.
Wow.
So, but again, many of them have online applications. They're really set up for this now, so you can really apply online to start the process now for forbearance. And but just keep in mind that there may be they may make some changes to this too. And if they do, as we see those changes, we'll bring them to you guys.
So if we have an agent that says, all right, I want to send something out to my clients and I want to say, with confidence, if you're struggling right now, here are 3 things that you can do. One would be find out who your servicer is, which a lot of people have automatic payments, so maybe they don't know exactly, but they can, you can look at your bank draft and find out who it is. The second would be go on that servicer's website to see what the process would be like, and if you need help, then look for that and start that process online. And things may change. Every investor's different, but generally speaking, most investors right now seem to be doing a 4-month delay with a asterisks that they're not getting tacked on at the end, but that those 4 months will be, you're just kind of kicking the can down the road, but then in 4 months you got a pile of cans.
Right, you could.
It's a bad analogy, don't use that, but there's a better one out there, I'm sure.
Yeah, so basically, again, from anywhere from 3 months up to a year, and just to reach out to his servicer, see what your options are, start the process. Again, no, there's not going to be any delinquencies reported, and no penalties for those payments. So that's great. It is definitely a relief. Understand what could be down the road.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Connie. Appreciate it. All right. So as Hunter gets back in, some tools. So we have and hopefully you can see this on your screen, but we're going to email this out. We're actually making a couple of edits to it, but it'll be a sheet that you can add into your buyer consultation package that you can send out to buyers, that you can meet with buyers about. And it just talks about your health and well-being, matters to us. It has 5 things. We're gonna change a couple around again and add a 6 about distancing. But it's really a way to show houses, or to explain to your clients how you show houses. Right? We're not going to be driving in the car together. We're going to meet you there. Please wash your hands before and after you leave. Leave the lights as you found them, and that's for us as agents too. Please refrain from using the toilets if possible. We're going to take that out and put in there that if you're uncomfortable, we're happy to do virtual tours for you as well. And then obviously, please, don't leave your hand wipes or whatever on the ground behind. Take those with you. And then again, something else about staying, just keeping your distance. So hopefully that's helpful. Thanks to Caitlin for putting that together from the comfort of her home. Also, this COVID-19 amendment addendum came out literally as we were doing the sales meeting last week. So if you look at this has some language. I'm just going to read this verbatim just so everybody can hear it. This COVID-19 amendment between the undersigned seller and buyer is entered into and is effective as of this date and time executed below. Notwithstanding any other provision in this agreement, if any performance deadline, including closing date, inspection period, or resolution period, herein called the performance deadline periods, in the above referenced agreement, if any of those cannot occur as agreed to, as set forth in the agreement, because of a business interruption of a third-party service provider or governmental office that is providing services or information necessary to complete the transactions, that could be like codes or building permits, including but not limited to closing agencies, title underwriters, mortgage lenders, applicable city or county tax assessor office, home inspectors, and appraisers. And if that said interruption is directly attributable to the quarantine, closure, or other circumstance related to COVID-19, then either buyer or seller, either party, may notify the other party via the notification form or equivalent written notice of the existence of the COVID-19 circumstance and extend all performance deadline periods by blank days. So I've had a lot of questions about this, and some people have said, well, it feels better for buyers than it does for sellers. But the point is, both buyer and seller have to agree to amount of days before somebody gives notice. So I probably wouldn't agree to, more than, 15 days. You could always do another amendment after that, but I wouldn't be putting in 60 days or 100 days on there because that can really throw things off. It just leaves a lot of unknowns. But try to keep, remember about rate locks, and there's certain things, appraisals have to be done within a certain amount of time prior to the closing. So there's certain periods that you don't want to extend arbitrarily, beyond 15 or maybe 30 days. But if this is something that you'd like to use, you can present it with your offer. You can also present it with the contract, but it does have to be a mutually agreeable amendment. And then once it's agreed upon and the days are mentioned, then either party can give notice and enact it. Obviously, can you prove that a home inspector is not available because of a COVID-19 issue? Probably, only so much. But hopefully we're all working in an honest fashion together, and this is a helpful tool to use if you'd like. A few tips. I don't have any tips today. Oh, one tip. One thing I did want to mention was the coming soon rule. I haven't seen anything official, but it is supposedly, I think you watched the video call about that last week, it is supposedly being pushed back to May in terms of being enacted with RealTrack. So
I've got some tips.
You got some tips.
Yeah. So I mentioned some of this last week, but in terms of this weird time we're in, be sure to stay active personally and professionally. And a lot of you have reached out to me to shoot me an email or give me a call, and that's just really appreciated. And so if you're doing that with each other and using the Village community to support you during this time, like I said, we're going to make it through this. And opportunities, we don't really know where they are, but opportunities will emerge from this. And I think in order to be best positioned for that, use this time really well to get some exercise, get good sleep. Don't just relax and watch some Netflix as well, but just don't do that to the exclusion of some other really good things that you can use this time to establish some good patterns and habits and be in a good spot to come out of this strong, both physically, mentally, and with your business.
Yeah, it is a stressful time. I've sent out a couple of videos over the last week. I don't know if you'll have seen those or not, but I'm feeling it too. We're all feeling it. I found that exercise is a huge. My Hunter makes fun of me about exercising, but I try to do it. I wish I did it more, but it is. I'll get my kids and be like, all right, we're going on a bike ride, and I'll go up all the hills I can, and I'll wear them out, and they get annoyed with me, but it's good, and we push it and try to get some blood flowing and enjoy the nice weather and just get some time and space to get neighbors. One cool story. So on a bike ride 4 days ago, I ran into my neighbor who said, "Hey, did you see that Coming Soon that came on the market down the street?" And I said, "No, I hadn't seen it yet." She said, "Well, I just walked by. I might be interested in seeing it. And maybe it's an opportunity to do a rehab." So set up a showing. We went and looked at it. It didn't work. But then yesterday, I got a call from somebody that said, "Hey, I'm friends with your neighbor, and she just referred me to you. I need to sell my house." So maybe I would have gotten that referral if it wasn't for bumping into her, but I'm pretty sure that led to that referral. So again, you can still interact with people from a safe distance. That was a perfect example of just being visible, right? Being out and about and communicating and engaging with your sphere. So happen to just be lucky, I guess, but luck happens when, what is it? Luck happens to those who are prepared.
Sounds good.
All right. So coming soons. Be sure to go to comingsoon.villagetn.com and enter those coming soons in. I'll send that link out after lunch today, so spend the next couple hours entering those in. You don't need to upload any photos, but you can just input all the text options there. So any takeaways? Hunter, you have any takeaways today? You got a lot. That's all you got. All right. Well, thank you all very much for doing this. We appreciate it. Hopefully this new format was helpful. And again, we look forward to working with you. And in about 15 minutes, we're going to do a real estate review class. And again, I'll send out the link about 20 minutes from now. We'll do it at 10:30.
We really miss seeing you guys here.
We do.
This is not nearly as fun as normal.
This is what it looks like right now. Here, you can show the. It's kind of boring. I mean, it's not that, Connie's here, so she's not boring. But this is what it looks like. This is our setup. So hopefully you all have a good. There's a knock over my hand sanitizer. Y'all have a good week. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for being you. And keep in touch with us. Keep in touch with each other. And be a support structure. And get out and about. Bump into some neighbors. Y'all take care.